guys, today I just wanted to do a kind of 6-month review on the Woodland Mills HM126 here. Woodland Mills has 3 different sizes, the 122, 126, and 130. The size kind of refers to the diameter of log that you can cut, so it's pretty self-explanatory. It's in inches, so like the 22 you could cut a 22-inch diameter log, 26 a 26-inch diameter log, and the 30 a 30-inch diameter log. For me, I decided the 26 was probably the best model. Just where I'm located here, we don't have a ton of trees on our property over 26 inches, and I kind of discovered that, if you start looking at stuff that big, for us, it's kind of just almost more of a pain trying to move it around and get it on the mill and stuff. And, when you don't have that many big trees, you try not to cut them down if possible too. The 26 comes with 2 different engine options. You can get a 9.5 horse motor with it, or the 14 horse motor. This one here has a 14 horsepower motor. It was a $200 option more than the 9.5 horsepower motor. I just decided that, for 200 bucks, I thought it sounded like a good idea to have more power, as opposed to, I've never owned one of these before, so I wasn't sure if maybe the 9.5 might be a little underpowered, so I got the 14 horse, and I'm really happy with it so far. Woodland Mills has if you go on their website, they have all the pricing and everything on there. But, for the base model of the 126 with the 9.5 horsepower motor, and, just right out of the box how they sell it, you can pick that up for $3,699 Canadian. And, if that's all you spent, you could technically be cutting lumber right out of that price point. Like I said, mine was $200 extra, so that bumped it up to $3,899. And then, all said and done, with the setup that I have here, with taxes and everything, I think I was about $5,800. That includes the cover that you saw me taking off. There's a pack of 10 blades that you can get with it that I got. And then I also got a 6-foot track extension that lets you go from cutting, just over 10-foot stuff. With the extra 6-foot extension, you can cut just over 16 feet, which I felt was pretty important to have, because a lot of the times, we're on a farm here, and a lot of times you could use 12, 14, 16 foot 2x4s, 2x8s, whatever. If you're looking at the extra options that I grabbed, the cover you saw me take off there at the start, it was 150 bucks. 6 feet of track extension right now is $375 extra, and a pack of 10 blades was $225. And the spare parts, it was $150, and it comes with, a couple different of the belts and bearings and stuff that might wear out over time on this, and it's just kind of nice to have, if you're in the middle of cutting lumber on a weekend or something, and one of your belts goes, you can just throw a new one on, and you don't have to wait however long it takes to get it shipped to your area. When this arrives at your place, they drop it off in a big crate on a skid. It is very helpful if you have some sort of tractor with a loader, skid steer, etc., that you can move the crate around with, because I know when this arrived, I think it was almost 900 pounds, the weight of it, and it's good if you can move the whole thing right to where you're going to be setting it up, because a lot like this main thing wasn't all assembled, but the engine does come attached to the front housing there, and it's pretty heavy. You can see these poles up here. It's meant for hooking, you know, like a loader or something up to and lifting it onto the track. I don't know if you could lift that just with like 2 or 3 guys, but I know I wouldn't want to try it if you have any other option. I think that they say to give yourself a good day to get it all set up. Personally, I took 2 days. If you were very ambitious, very handy, I could see probably that you could get it done in a day. I know that, you know, having done it once already, if I were to go do another one, I could probably easily set it up in a day. But, you know, when it's something that you've never set up before, I've never even owned a sawmill before, if you want to take your time and make sure you get it set up right and stuff like that, you should probably, I'd say, give yourself 2 days to get it set up, so you're not, you know, trying to rush and you forget something, because there are quite a few different parts that you have to put on, quite a few different size bolts and nuts and washers, and I'd recommend taking your time, making sure that you're following the instructions right, because, you know, if you're rushing, you end up putting some bolts where they're not supposed to be, and then you just end up having to go back and take them out and put the right bolts in, so on and so forth. So I'd say give yourself 2 days to get it set up. So the first thing I'll go over with you guys is the track itself. This is the track, and your mill just rolls right along here, and the track comes in different sections. So it comes together in 2 sections right off the bat. So you can see there's a joint right here, and then because I got the extra 6-foot extension, I have another joint right here, and these all bolt together, and your log bunks bolt on top of there, and this is what your log sits on top of when you're cutting your lumber. And I was very surprised how heavy duty these are. I know that a lot of times now stuff's built pretty cheap and you never know exactly what to expect, but I was pleasantly surprised at just how heavy these are. You know, even just to pick up one of these 6-foot sections, it's pretty heavy, and you can definitely tell that it's very heavy duty. When you put this together, it comes with all these little adjustable legs here, and I don't know if I can get you under there, but it just has the bolt on the bottom, and then it has the same sort of thing on the top. You can't really tell because it's winter in Canada here and everything gets snowed on and frozen, but I love these legs. You know, once you get it set up, I know that in the summer I didn't have to really adjust it much, but now that it's winter, frost is coming into the ground, it does start shifting on you. A better, permanent, more solid setup would be an ideal solution, but I just have them sitting on these 6x6s right now, pressure treated, and when the frost is coming into the ground, it does start shifting it a bit. And I love these legs because they're just so easy to adjust the track with, and you can be really precise with them. So, you know, there's lots of different ways to do it. So far I've just been kind of, you know, taking my level around, and if you ever notice anything getting out of whack, you can just, you know, tighten up that certain area or loosen that certain area to raise that part of the track up or down and get you cutting really smooth again. It also comes with 2 of these. They're called log dogs, I guess, and they just come with this hand clamp there, and you slide it back and forth. And what these do is when you're putting your log on, you roll it up and it sits against these. That you know, holds it in place. And then on the other side of the log, you put this clamp up against the log, and you just put that down, and it tightens right into the log so that it can't move anywhere when you're cutting the lumber. They work really good. They're really easy to move around. This here is called the toe board. It is something that I did not get right off the bat, but I ordered it a while after. The reason being, on our farm here we have a lot of cedar, and the cedar is quite tapered from one end to the other. So, you know, one end of the log, once you get it on the mill, will be quite a bit bigger around than the other end of the log. And what this allows you to do is, you can see there, I'm just moving it by hand, but you can raise up the smaller end of the log with it, and then that allows you to split the difference and get a lot more lumber out of the same log as you would if you just like cut a whole bunch off the big end and until you got into the small end. This lets you kind of raise the small end up a bit, so you're just taking what you need to until you can get your squared off cant and get your lumber from there. So as I was saying, I bought the 6-foot track extension, so that lets me cut just over 16 feet here. I've almost been toying with the idea of getting one more extension. Not that I really need to cut a lot longer stuff that often. It's just that one of the things I didn't really think about before getting it was that when you're cutting something almost 16 feet, that means that the log that you're putting on here, you know, has to go right from the end all the way up, pretty much right against your mill here. And if it's right back like that and it can't go anywhere, you know, depending on what kind of equipment you have, we have kind of like an older tractor with a bit of a jumpy clutch sometimes, and you just get kind of nervous when you're, you know, you got a great big log on the forks and you're trying to get it in here, you know, 2 or 3 inches away from the mill, and it's kind of rocking and stuff like that. So it would be nice to maybe just get a little bit longer of an extension, just so you can, you know, keep your log out quite a ways from the head of the mill there when you're putting it on. Don't want to risk smashing into it with anything. So that's about it for the track. Going on to the head unit, like I was saying before, this doesn't come completely assembled how you see it here. You have to kind of like add this structure and bolt all this together when it comes. So it's definitely an asset if you have some sort of loader or something like that, because once you have to put this all together kind of right out of the box. You just flip this part over and then you bolt all of this on afterwards. And once you get this whole thing together, it's really solid and really heavy. So yeah, I would definitely recommend having some sort of way of getting this lifted up onto the track. Now the model that I have here, the 126 14 horse, it comes with a pull start. I kind of wish that you had the option of getting the electric start, but I think you pretty much have to get the 130 to have that option. The pull start is one of the, I understand why they have to have all this stuff here, but it is one of the things that gets a little tricky sometimes. Usually when you're starting it, I'll bring you over here, it's not a big deal. There's room to get your hand right in here and you can kind of pull it like that. The only problem that I sometimes have is when you have a big log on the mill and you have to get your blade way up here, that means that your motor is going to be way up here, and then when you go to start it, you're kind of way up here, and it just kind of makes it a bit harder to get started. Again, not a huge deal, I'm kind of nitpicking. You've got your on-off switch right here, So you flip that on, and this is your choke, on or off. I usually put it on to start it. This is for oil fill up. There's one on this side, and there's the same thing on the other side, and that's just to drain the oil out. Got your air filter here, just these little clips on or off and back on and back on again. Yep, there we go. Obviously fill it up with gas there. Got your tape measure here. It works really good. I know that when I first started cutting, I was pretty much checking everything with the tape measure just to double check, but after a while you just get comfortable using this, and you know, that's your inch markers kind of thing, and you just use this lever here. Let me come around this side. Just use this lever here, and if you watch the tape measure, you just crank that, you go from 8 inches up to 9 inches, and that's measuring it off the top of this bunk here. And so, you know, what you would do if you wanted to cut, say, an inch board, you pass through at 9 inches, then you bring the mill back. In your next pass, you just crank this down until it hits your 8 inches, and then you just go right through again, and that'd give you, that there would give you a 1 inch board minus the thickness of the blade, so you know, maybe 15/16 kind of thing. This also comes with an hour meter. As you can see here, I've got 20.7 hours on it. I've had it for about 6 months, so it's not like I've been using it a crazy amount. Of course, that only counts the hours that it's actually running, so it's not like it counts the hours, you know, that you shut it off and you're, you know, turning logs around, putting new logs on, that kind of thing. But so that's 20.7 engine hours. But I can tell you that I'm right around the point now where I've already cut enough lumber to pay for it, if that makes sense. So in other words, we get all the trees for free here on the farm, so that's one thing to consider. But you know, having said that, with getting all the trees for free, I have already cut the value in lumber to pay for this. So in other words, I've cut almost $6,000 worth of lumber. If you had to go buy it from, you know, Home Depot or Home Hardware or something like that. So in my mind, I'm really happy. I basically consider that it's paid for itself now, and everything from here on out is gravy. Take you around to the other side here now. This here's a lubricant tank. It's got the cap on the top. You just pop that off. I know in the summer, a lot of people, including myself, they just use water and soap. That seemed to work fine. Once the cold weather starts hitting around here, you can't do that anymore. It just gets frozen up in these lines real quick. So I have windshield washer fluid in here now, and that seems to work good. One of the things that comes standard on this model is the adjustable blade guide here. So you have your handle here on this side that you can move back and forward. A little bit of frozen dust on there right now, but that moves this part in and out. So, you know, if you have a smaller log on the mill, you can just put that over kind of to where your log is, and that keeps this guide nice and tight in between the log. And you know, I also like to think of it as a little bit more of a safety feature, just having this part of the blade covered up that is not actually cutting through the wood. This here is your blade tensioner. When you're not using the blade tensioner, you're supposed to take all the tension off of it, so that's why it's so loose right now. When you go to use the sawmill, you tighten this up, and you just have to get this part flush with that part, if that makes sense. So you can kind of see there how it's moving in, and you just keep going until it's right flush, and that tells you that you have the proper tension. I'll just loosen that off now so I can actually show you how you change a blade. There's 3 of these little guys. There's one here, so I'll take that off, and then there's actually 2 underneath, one right there. I'll take that off, and then one on the other side here too. So that's all loose, and then you just have this part here to take off, and that will let you right inside here. It's a little bit more difficult doing this holding the camera. There we go. On it, all you literally have to do is take this guard off, just with this here, and the blade just literally, you just pull it right off, and you just put the new one back on the same way. You make sure you have it flush with the back of these wheels all the way around, and then you tighten your tensioner back up, and hopefully away you go. Now, the one thing you should always do is just kind of test these wheels with your hands first. It's not going to spin right now because there's no tension on it, but if you spin, your blade will move by hand, and you can see how it's tracking, like if it's going to come off the band wheel or not. That gets a little bit more complicated. Usually you're good, but if you do have to adjust that, you can through the little tracking bolts here to move your wheel in or out. So I wanted to make the video about this specific model, just in case anybody's, you know, looking for other people's opinions on this specific model. But I also do want to make another video, and that's just going to be kind of about the experience of getting a sawmill in general, and, you know, things that could be kind of said about any sawmill. That's going to be all for me today, and I hope that you'll check out some of my other videos soon. Thanks. Bye.